Hi guys, Crystal from Dreamline Design here, and I'm back with a second video for today. Ignore my kids if you hear them in the background. Their dad is watching them so that I can work today, but they're not the quietest children. So basically, I'm going to show you how to do your core, because I've shown that in the Dreamline Design group, but I want to go over it a little bit more in depth. And I'm also going to show you how to add a seam allowance to your patterns. Now, in order to get to where I am here, I had to use math. Like, your sew line is about how big your pattern's going to be when it's done. Now, you will still have, this is where your seam will be sewn, but you will turn it, and that might make it just a teensy bit smaller, maybe. But they still typically turn out exactly what the sew line is. So, I typically start out with a line through the middle here for the wings with as long as I would like for the wings to be. Now that takes some math. It really depends on how wide your pad is. It kind of takes some trial and error to figure that out. And then I make a line up here and a line down here with how wide I want this area to be. And I line it so that the long line is directly in the middle and the two short lines are equally apart from the middle line. Now, that will give me, this one is a 3-inch wide pattern, so I did that with a 3-inch line and so on. Now, for your seam allowance, if you want to offer a seam allowance, you're going to select this. You're going to go up to Object, Path, Offset Path. I offset mine by 0.25 inches, which is a 1/4 inch. We're going to go ahead and preview that. Looks good. Now, I don't make my seam allowance lines dashed lines. I keep those solid so that people can tell the difference. One thing when you're doing dashed lines I want to point out, though. You notice if I do this orientation of, you'll see over here on the right here, if I do this orientation, these corners are kind of lost, like right here. And I know when I'm cutting, I don't like that. So we're going to go ahead, click this, and we're going to click the other one. And this makes sure that all of our points have lines here. That's how I personally like to do that so that there's no guesswork and, you know, unevenness. I don't know, I'm a perfectionist, but that's how I like to do it. From here, we're going to zoom out a bit. You're going to take your sew line and you're going to Alt, drag, and hold Shift so that it keeps it in line. Now I'm going to make it a solid line by unclicking this dashed line here over in the right on the stroke panel. Now, like I've shown you in other videos, if you don't have these, you can go to Window and you can pick and choose what you are going to use. Now I do have a video on that, so I'm not going to go over that right now. But you'll find that in the stroke menu for the dashed line here. Now, from here, I'm going to go to the Delete Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to delete all the anchor points for the wings. We don't need that right now. We're doing the core right now. And if you click off of an anchor point, it's going to be really quick to let you know, because it'll say, you can't do that. So don't panic if it says that. You just accidentally clicked outside of it. Now, if you notice here, we still have a little bit of a curve where these wings are curved up at the top here. So I'm going to go to the Anchor Point tool. I'm going to click this, and I'm going to drag that little handle. If you see it here, there's a handle. I'm just going to take it straight down to this anchor point. That's how I do it to make sure it's completely straight. Bam. So now we're going to check and make sure we don't have any stray anchor points, because that will mess with your core here, but it doesn't look like we do, which is good. Now we're going to go up to Object, Path, Offset Path. Now the first one that I do is my one size core. This will depend. This is just showing you how. Decide where you want your core line to be for your pattern, and then put that into this offset part. Now I typically offset by 0.33 or 0.35 depending on the shape, and it's a negative here. That's going to take it inside. See, if we preview it, it put it inside. Now if you end up with something where you have a line on the inside and outside, that means your path is not joined and you need to join it. okay? That means you have individual pieces like I showed you in the last one where we broke down this piece, the two wings, and the bottom piece. If you do not have them joined, it doesn't know where to go, and so it will put a line inside and outside. So, been there, done that. But I'm going to do 0.35 and click OK. Now I'm going to go up here again. Now that this one is selected, I'm going to go Object, Path, Offset Path, and I'm going to do another 0.35. You guys, calm down, baby. I'm trying to make a video. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go another negative 0.35. Now, if you have a really, really complicated shape, you're going to want to click this and do round. It's just going to make it easier for people to cut. Now, this is pretty straightforward, standard, you know, not a big deal. So I'm not going to worry about that. Then click OK. And then I am now offering, slow down, Crystal. Goodness. Okay. So I'm going to go up here, click this, click here, go down to borders, dashed. Now my outside one is typically done with this line, this dashed line. My inside one is typically done with this dashed line so that my customers can tell the difference. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go up here and click these tints. That allows me to add color, because otherwise you cannot add color. And you're going to click Apply to Strokes. My inside one is blue, and my outside one is green. And now I'm going to click on the green one. I want my surged core to fall between these two lines, because this line is a little bit too close to the edge for a surged core if you want to do nice top stitching on your exposed core. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to click that one, click Object, Path, Offset Path, negative 0.175. Now that's going to give me a line right in the middle of these lines. So from here, I need to look at my key, because this is relatively new for me, adding the exposed core. From here, I'm going to go, oh yeah, okay. Going to click that. I am going to make it a basic line, because it's going to copy whatever you're offsetting from. So I'm going to make this a basic line and turn it black. And then I'm going to make it a dashed line. Now, I believe for this dashed line, I had it on 10 and a stroke of 1.5. Let me just double check that with my key over here. Like the other ones I knew offhand, but this one is still a new concept. Okay, I think I went even smaller than that on it. I think it might have been 7. Yeah. Okay. So I've got that line, and you don't have to offer this many options. You can start from here, which is, consider this the outside of your pad. How far in do you want your core? So you know you don't want to catch your top stitching in there. So if you do like a 1/4 inch seam allowance for your top stitching, you want it to be smaller than that. I don't make mine much smaller than that so that it will help keep the edges from curling if you use something like bamboo or something like that. But I still don't want the top stitching catching the core, because then you end up with a thick edged pad. So you definitely don't have to do these, but I'm going to show you how I do it. I prefer to do a graded core, so I do offer you guys that option. You don't have to. You can do a one size core where all your layers are one size. Now that can be hard if you're doing a heavy or a super, because if it's so thick, it's going to be hard to top stitch. So that's why I do the graded. It keeps it thinner, and it just works well for me. Now I'm offering exposed because I've had people ask me for exposed. So this is our surged exposed line. I'm going, exposed line, goodness, surged exposed core line. From here, I'm going to grab that one, click it, go up to Object, Path, Offset Path, 0.25. This is how I'm going to give the people that like a turned and top stitched exposed core their option. So, I'm going to click preview. Oh, I did a 0.3, I believe. Yeah. Just so it wasn't too close to this line. But it's still going to give you relatively this size once you turn and top stitch. So, now we have that line. Now I know I did it like 75% and I made it like a 20-point dash line here. So, let's go ahead and do that. And I made it about 75% opacity. I try to make it pretty easy to tell which is which. So we're going to zoom out here. Now we're done. We're finally done with all the core layers. And like I said, you do not have to do all those layers. But I like to offer my customers everything that I can. So I'm going to scoot this over until it lines up with the sew line here. I'm going to unclick it, zoom in, and check it and make sure that, you know, it's lined up exactly here. This is your guideline. Once you've made sure that it's lined up, you can click it and delete it. So that lets me know that my core is ready. But that was a 50% transparency line. There we go. So that's how I do it. I know it seems complicated. You don't need to have all of these options. This is just what I do personally in my patterns. And I also do layers. So I might show you guys that in another video. I might go ahead and do that since that's what I'm fixing to do with this one. So I'm going to let you guys go for now and I will make the next video.